X. Joining me right now is Louisiana Congressman and House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Tell me where you see this funding extension helping, and whether or not you do believe that they will come up with some kind of relief for COVID people impacted.
Yeah, Maria, good morning. Great to be back with you. And look, there's been a lot of interest on both the Republican and Democrat side for months now on helping those small businesses who are struggling. And it's heartbreaking. Every day you hear more stories of businesses that are dying on the vine. You see the hypocrisy of some of these governors saying, you know, you can't open your restaurant, but then they're out at their favorite restaurant. And it's just killing the psyche of these small businesses. We have a bill by Steve Chabot that would those PPP loans using the $137 billion that's already frozen sitting in an account to let those businesses go for a second round of funding who are struggling. For many reasons, Speaker Pelosi hasn't brought that bill to the floor. And in fact, just last week, she acknowledged one of the reasons she's holding up relief is because she's waiting for a new president. I think that just angers so many people who are saying, stop holding us hostage. So there's a lot of interest in getting something done, but there's not a lot of interest in bailing out failed states, for example, or sending checks to people who are here illegally, which are some of the things that the Democrats were holding out for. So I think there's interest in getting a deal done. We need to get it done yesterday because there's so many businesses who are dying on the vine. We also, Maria, need to address the problem that right now some businesses would be facing actual being taxed on the PPP loans they already took out. That was never Congress's intention. That needs to be fixed as well.
But you make a really important point here on Nancy Pelosi, Congressman, because before the election, when she was negotiating with President Trump, she would not even hear of anything below $3 trillion or at one point $2.2 trillion. She said that the American people need help, and that's why. And now that we are after the election and she's expecting Joe Biden to be the president, she says, well, now I will say yes to something that's below $1 trillion, $908 billion, because there's a new president. I mean, she just told us all that it was all politics. So you've got small business and people out there who are dying, who are in such need of help, and it was all politics.
Yeah, it's infuriating, Maria, because every day we hear stories of businesses. You know, in New Orleans, we love our restaurants. And there's story after story of famous world-class restaurants that will never open again because they didn't get that relief that they needed. If we pass a bill next week, that would be great. But there are thousands of businesses that should have never closed if they would have gotten that help months ago. In September, I started bringing up the idea to the majority leader that we had this bill by Rep. Chabot that everybody agreed to. You get over 400 votes on the House floor to just let businesses go for a second round of loans. It's not a dime of new deficit spending. It's money sitting in an account frozen. Just let that money be freed up for these businesses who are struggling, and they would never bring that bill to the floor. We found out last week when Speaker Pelosi made that enlightening but incredibly discouraging statement that the reason it was being held up is not because of differences of opinion. It's because she's waiting for a new president. She didn't want Trump to get the credit. It's unbelievable because how many thousands of businesses will never open again who could have been saved, these businesses, and the jobs. There's millions of jobs that are gone, just vanished from our economy. Even with the vaccine, with our economy eventually coming back, these businesses will never come back, and they should have been able to survive.
I mean, what a sad state of affairs. You've got politics driving the day on stimulus. You've got China wanting to replace the United States as the #1 superpower at a time that there's a lot of speculation that a potential Biden administration is going to be much easier on China. Look at Goldman Sachs right now, owning its securities business 100% in China. There are negotiations now to allow the CFO of Huawei, the founder's daughter, who's been detained in Canada, to let her go back to China. Are we looking at a much different policy? Also speculation that, well, Jake Sullivan, incoming NSA, said that, yeah, a Biden administration is going to put us back into the Iran deal. And then there's been no accountability for real wrongdoers in terms of those who broke the law by spying on innocent Americans just because they didn't like Donald Trump.
Yeah, President Trump brought this up multiple times during the campaign. I think it was a big issue and a concern with so many people that a Joe Biden administration would be soft on our enemies, soft on China, soft on Russia. as you said, going back into the failed Iran deal where they get a nuclear weapon. Frankly, it was the reaction to the Iran deal that brought countries like UAE and Bahrain to the table to sign peace agreements with Israel, and President Trump led that effort. And then you look at the Paris Accord. For goodness sake, they say they would bring John Kerry back to get us into a deal that literally would hand the keys to the store over to China, because China is exempt from the Paris Accord. Not a single country in Europe is even in compliance because these are ridiculous, unachievable targets, and it wrecks manufacturing economies. Why would we ever want to do that to America, where Trump had us at the most robust economy in the history of our nation before COVID? We need to get back to that. That's where our focus needs to be, on bringing manufacturing back yet again, bringing jobs back, and the energy revolution there has to be a part of that. You don't want to get rid of American energy.
Yeah.
These things are going to be made somewhere in the world. Why not make them in America, where we actually reducing our carbon emissions through innovation, not through reckless policies that would kill manufacturing jobs in America?
And by the way, let's not forget the most obvious of all, with all of the globalists wanting a foothold in China. China is the world's biggest polluter, okay? Anybody who's been to China knows that. As soon as you get off the plane, the air stinks. I mean, it smells like a factory, because that's what it is. Factories making products for the world, and you can't get away from it. I remember when I went and I was in my hotel room, I couldn't even get away from it. It stinks in the hotel room as well. The air quality is that bad. So all of these individuals who say, I want to go to China for the growth story and sell my widgets to 1.4 billion people, then they turn around and they say, oh, we want to get rid of fossil fuels in America. Well, really? Dagan McDowell, jump in here.
Think of the Green New Deal. They literally exempt China till 2030. They burn plastic. I mean, it's toxic things that they burn. And we have great environmental standards. These people that love beating up on America need to recognize America is the leader in the world in innovation. Don't crush that and send those jobs to China.
I mean, the hypocrisy is just outrageous. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thank you so much. I want to get Dagan's take on this as well. Congressman, we'll see you soon. Steve Scalise, stay with us. We'll be right back.